Our marriage is a strong marriage. We love each other. We support each other. In any marriage, there are issues that come up between two people who are married that I think are their business. Ultimately, I guess my point is anything about our marriage as important to the people of New Hampshire as to whether or not they will have a chance to keep their own families together and to deal with the problems that are affecting this country?
I like to answer all these things. I hate for her to have to deal with it. But I'll tell you this, that story wasn't true. We need to tell the people who are the filthmongers of the world that those of us who believe we can all do better, that none of us are perfect, we're under a moral imperative to love our families and try to build them and strengthen them and move forward together, are going to try to take our country back from that kind of behavior.
Married to a lawyer who earns a lot more money than he does. Great Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Well, you know, a few weeks ago we looked at the calendar trying to figure out a time when Bill and Chelsea and I could be in New Hampshire because we wanted her to have some idea where we were since we were gone so much of the time. And in Arkansas, Monday is our state holiday in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And so Chelsea doesn't have school. And so we arranged for her to join us up here where she will get an idea of what it means to spend 50 to 80% of your time in your state. And we've looked forward to this, and we're going to spend some time driving around tomorrow and seeing some people, and then she's going to attend the debate with us. So this is a really good opportunity for us to be here, and I'm just grateful that all of you would turn out on a Saturday night to be part of this. I had to introduce your husband or your wife before. There are so many things you could say. I mean, if you all don't want to get home in time for church tomorrow, I could just keep you here. But it also gives you a great opportunity to share some of your own feelings and thoughts with the people who turn out to hear and meet your husband who may consider voting for him for president. And it is a very exciting thing that I have really gotten very involved in this campaign, have spent a lot of time talking about the issues. And there are really only two things that I want to say tonight in introduction of my husband. The first is that you know, this election for us is so important because we see it as much bigger than Bill's candidacy. I mean, I have to tell you that if all that stood at the end of all this effort from all the thousands and thousands of people who are helping us all over this country were maybe our living in the White House and going to Camp David for weekends and maybe even inviting you all to come see us once in a while, that would not be enough. But what we think stands at the end of it is a real opportunity to change the country. And that's why we're doing this. And we are so extremely grateful for all of the help that we're getting. Because given the time that we have spent in our state, more than a decade now, we know you can make change if you are committed to it, if you stay the course, if you do not get discouraged, and if you bring people together. And as everybody in this room knows, change is hard and politics today is tough and the obstacles you have to overcome are just so big. But we can do it. And I have watched my husband get up every morning knowing that he was going to try to make life better. He didn't always get what he wanted. He didn't always succeed. But I never doubted for a minute the kind of commitment he had to our state, and I don't doubt for a minute the kind of commitment he would bring to the presidency. And what we hope to do in this campaign, through reaching out and enlisting you all to be a part of it, is not only to win a nomination, and not only to win in November, but to build the choices for change that will make a difference in the government of this country. And it will start in places like this in Bedford tonight if all of us believe it, and if we do not get deterred, and if we absolutely understand that this campaign can be the start for making the best years of this country come alive for all of us who maybe lost a little hope in the past, but know again we can do these things together if we're committed to change. And the person that I think can do that, both by virtue of his experience, his temperament, his vision, and his faith, just happens to be my husband, Bill Clinton.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard a stunning illustration of my real campaign slogan. Buy one, get one free. If I become your president, I'm going to do everything I can to establish those kinds of instruments for economic revitalization from the grassroots up in every big city area in this country. The best affirmative action program we could do would be to empower blacks, Hispanics, and other minorities to seize control of their destiny, to be a part of the mainstream of American life. I'm going to spend some of your tax dollars to guarantee the establishment of those financial institutions to be the best money we ever spent. Yes. Yes.
Governor, if you don't mind, I have a question for Mrs. Clinton.
Oh, I wish you would. I'm hoarse anyway, and she'll do a better job.
Actually, I have two short questions. My first short question is, if you were First Lady, what would some of your pet projects be as First Lady?
The question was, if I were First Lady, what would some of my pet projects be? I would continue the work that I've done for more than 20 years, which has been an emphasis principally on children's issues. I have for 20 years worked with and been on the board of the Children's Defense Fund and other child-related organizations in this country and in Arkansas, and I just cannot imagine a more urgent task than to try to get our country to pay attention to what's happening to our children, and I would do that every way that I could.
Question, and I know that the recent tabloid articles have caused your family great distress, but wouldn't you agree with me that for voters here, it's a fair inquiry of a presidential candidate, their morality, and included in looking at that is a presidential candidate's marital fidelity? Is that a fair inquiry for a voter to make?
I think the question is it a fair inquiry for a voter to make about a presidential candidate's personal life and specifically marital fidelity? Well, I have to tell you that I think that from my perspective and my husband's, that's an issue that we are very comfortable with in our own marriage. We have very much expected that we'd be hit with all kinds of accusations if we decided to make this run for the presidency, the kind of accusations that are in the tabloids, you know, next to the articles about people with cow heads and the like. And we knew when we got into this that those were the kind of things that would be run against us because the Republicans did it in the last gubernatorial campaign. I believe that the kinds of questions that are asked should be answered as the person answering them feels most comfortable with. And I have to tell you that from my perspective, our marriage is a strong marriage. We love each other, we support each other, and we have had a lot of strong and important experiences together that have meant a lot to us. And in any marriage, there are issues that come up between two people who are married that I think are their business. And I guess what I have to tell you, and you know, I guess I have to tell you that it is very important to me that what I care about most in this world, which is my family and what we mean to each other and what we've done together, have some realm of protection from public life. And that's my opinion, and I know there will be voters who disagree with that, and I respect that disagreement if that's how they choose to decide. But ultimately, I guess my point is anything about our marriage, which has now lasted 16 years, in a fishbowl in a very small state where we've been in 17 elections in 17 years, where we've raised a daughter we're very proud of, where we've stood by each other through thick and through thin, is anything about our marriage as important to the people of New Hampshire as to whether or not they will have a chance to keep their own families together and to deal with the problems that are affecting this country?
We've already said more about this than I want to, but I will say one other thing about it. That tabloid story, that came out in the last campaign by a right-wing Republican who was fired from state government for making almost 700 calls illegally on public money to the Contras and their sympathizers. He got fired. He denied that he did it. He leveled those false charges against me. He defamed other innocent people who have all now twice disclaimed the story, all the parties. And we know that we live in a world when all people have to do is make third-party accusations, and if everybody says it's not so, it's still news. My wife knowing that it would come up again, and that some people, some papers like The Sun, which does, tells us that, or The Star, Martians walk on the earth, kids are born in caskets and all those stuff, that they would say that, knowing that. She woke up one day a few months ago and looked at me and she said, I know this will be rough, but we got to do this. We have got to do this. Now, I like to answer all these things. I hate for her to have to deal with it, but I'll tell you this, that story wasn't true. And yesterday it was revealed that the guy that's been pounding this around, trying to bribe me into paying him off, was caught having lunch with a member of the Republican National Committee from my state, and he admitted that he'd been giving him legal advice and had talked to him for 5 or 6 times. Now remember, folks, what you got 4 years ago when you voted for Read My Lips and the other guy's a thug, right? If you reward this kind of insidious behavior one more time, I hesitate to think what will happen to our country. We need to tell the people who are the filthmongers of the world that those of us who believe we can all do better, that none of us are perfect, we're under a moral imperative to love our families and try to build them and strengthen them and move forward together, are going to try to take our country back from that kind of behavior. Yeah.